lost in saltwater. Silver frost on the windshield where you drew a heart with your thumb. I can still see the blur of it when the morning sun hits the glass. A tangled pair of headphones in the glove box we used to share, holding on to the tangles as if they were a lifeline to the past. The engine hums a low frequency that rattles my very bones. The horizon is blurring into a bruised shade of purple and gray. Shimmering reef dancing like dust, molten a beam of light. The hollow ring of a phone that no one's going to answer. Velvet darkness swallowing the crumbs of our final meal together. A symphony of sighs echoing through the empty hallways. I found the key to your apartment at the bottom of my winter coat. A useless piece of metal that doesn't open anything anymore. I regret the pride that kept my mouth shut while you were screaming, watching the ship sing, while I stood safely on the shore. I knew the end was coming weeks before you even packed a bag. I sabotaged the peace because I didn't know how to handle the quiet. I am the architect of the ruins I am currently standing in. Tear the sky open and let the rain wash the rust away. The weight of the unspoken is finally crashing down on the floor. I am screaming into the void and hearing the echo die out. The unfinished goodbye is finally written in the dirt. Walking away from the wreckage without looking back once. The air is cold and fresh and finally mine to breathe. Go to the edge of the dam. God is a circuit board and I'm about to short it out. I got a head full of venom and a lung full of shout. They sold me a map with no exits inside, but I'm carving a hole in the middle of the night. My shadow is a stranger with a heavy-duty grudge, and I'm the only jury, and I'm the only judge. Flood the system with a violent grace. I'm erasing the features from my hollowed-out face. I'm a landslide of anger, a mountain of bone, and I'm building a kingdom on a crumbling throne. Broken down radios playing the same old song. I've been trying to be right for way too long. Now I'm embracing the wrong and the ugly and the mean. I'm the dirtiest thing that you've ever seen. Spilling the ink on the pristine floor. I'm not the person you knew anymore. Burn the archives and forget the past. I found a momentum that was built to last. I'm storing a bottle that's ready to pop, and once I start moving, I'm never gonna stop. Silence is a heavy, heavy cloud. Flame is a magnet for the moth. I'm falling through the cracks of the floor. I don't wanna feel this way anymore. Explosion, revolution, the end of the line. I'm taking back the seconds that were never mine. Free from the grip, free from the hand. I'm the last man standing in the promised road. Let it go, let it go. Tracing the cracks in the plaster until they look like maps. The refrigerator hum is the only pulse in this apartment. I am a figurine forgotten on a shelf of broken things, waiting for a sound that isn't the ghost of my own name. Teeth grit, pulse silhouette fade into the gray. Coming for the man who locked the door. Cracked porcelain sky, rain drips through the ceiling onto the linoleum floor. A dead radio hisses, white noise in the corner. The smell of wet wool and old regret fills the room. I'm counting the cracks in the plaster like stars. The air is getting thinner with every ticking second. My pulse is a drum beat against the hollow chest. Rip through the velvet curtains of this tired life, finding the edges of the map where the wild begins. I am howling at the moon until my throat is raw, building a palace out of the ruins of the street. Rusty swings creak in the wind at the edge of town. The graveyard is the only place where anything grows. I see my name written in the dust on the windows. the shards of a dream that shattered in my mouth. The darkness has a weight that feels like wet wool. I am digging a trench through the hours of the early morning, waiting for the sun to prove that I still actually exist. Looking through the lens from the other side of the glass, I see a man who forgot the sound of his own laughter. The perspective shifts until the ceiling is the only ground. I am a ghost in a machine that has run out of power.
Take a hold of the wheel.
is rising like a flood in the hall. I'm standing upright against the weight of it all. I'm crushing every lie that I used to believe, giving myself the space and the permission to grieve. I'm dragging the truth out from the bottom of the well, escaping architecture of my own private hell. Ring the alarm and let the heavy bell swell. Beneath the layers of iron and rust, I found a heart that was turning to dust. I'm pouring the ocean into the flames, scrubbing the soot from the ghost of my name. I am the storm, I am the rain. Finally shows a face that I recognize. No more looking at the world through a demon's disguise. I've reclaimed the light that I thought was long dead, clearing the static from the inside of my head. I'm walking the path that I no longer dread. Identity found in the wreckage of the sound. Beats its wings against the yellow porch light. A storm is brewing over the rusty grain silo. I can feel the electricity vibrating in my bones, while the crickets mock the stillness of the yard. The pulse in my wrist is a countdown to the end. I am holding my breath until the dam finally breaks. Break the cycle of the seasons and the slow decline. Taste the salt of the sea on a wind I've never felt. I am diving into the unknown. frost on the windshield where you drew a heart with your thumb. I can still see the blur of it when the morning sun hits the glass. A tangled pair of headphones in the glove box we used to share. Holding on to the tangles as if they were a lifeline to the past. The engine hums a low frequency that rattles my very bones. The horizon's blurring into a bruised shade of purple and gray. Shimmering grief dancing like dust motes in a beam of light. The hollow ring of a phone that no one is going to answer. Velvet darkness swallowing the crumbs of a final meal together. A symphony of sighs echoing through the empty hallway. I found the key to your apartment at the bottom of my winter coat. A useless piece of metal that doesn't open anything anymore. I regret the pride that kept my mouth shut while you were screaming. Watching the ship sink while I stood safely on the shore. I knew the end was coming weeks before you even packed a bag. I sabotaged the peace because I didn't know how to handle the quiet. I am the architect of the ruins I am currently standing in. Tear the sky open and let the rain wash the rust away. The weight of the unspoken is finally crashing down on the floor. I am screaming into the void and hearing the echo die. The unfinished goodbye is finally written in the dirt. Walking away from the wreckage without looking back once. The air is cold and fresh and finally mine to breathe. Shattered glass ceiling, holding a line. Static in a rafter, cutting through the line. They wired my jaw with a silver-plated lie. But the hunger in the basement is starting to cry. Dust on the records and rust on the Faded Polaroids cut at the edges on the kitchen table. A fingerprint in the dust on the mirror you forgot to wipe away. The kettle whistles a lonely tune that stays in the wrong key. Your teacup sits empty beside a stack of unpaid bills. The rhythm of the clock feels like a hammer hitting velvet. Gravity pulls a little harder on the edges of my vision. I'm sitting in shadow, stretching across the linoleum floor. The scent of old lavender and the sting of cold winter air. Broken melodies humming through the cracks in the drywall. A ghost of a touch that vanishes when I reach out to grab it. I hid the letters you wrote under the loose floorboard in the closet, knowing that reading them would be like swallowing broken glass. I regret the way I turned my back when you looked for a reason to stay. Pretending I didn't see the tears blurring the path to the car. I never told you that I was the one who broke the compass. I wanted us to be lost so you couldn't find your way out. It was a selfish cage and I am the only one left in the cell. Crushing the remains of the pedestal I built for our misery. The distortion washes over the stains of the life we shared. Finally finding the strength to walk through the open door. The sun is rising over the debris of our shared history. No more ghosts lingering in the corners of my mind. The path ahead is clear and completely silent. The smell of damp wool and old paperback books lingers in the hallway, tracing the outline of where your shadow used to rest by the door. I found a single copper I kept the voicemail where you didn't say anything at all. Just the sound of the wind and the engine idling in the rain. Regret tastes like iron and the salt of 1,000 unspoken apologies. I should have chased the taillights instead of locking the deadbolt. I was the one who let the fire go out on purpose. I watched the embers die because I was too afraid to keep them warm. My cowardice is a lead weight in my chest that won't dissolve. It won't dissolve. Burn the maps and tear down the walls of this hollow sanctuary. The silence is screaming for a revolution that won't ever. I am finally breathing the smoke of everything we left behind. Wreckage is beautiful in the fading light. I am letting the tide take the pieces of us away. Goodbye is a word that finally tastes like freedom. The static horizon, cold coffee rings on a plastic diner table. The hum of a refrigerator is a funeral march. I watch the ceiling fan spin until my eyes ache. Nobody is moving Perspective shifts until the room is smaller than a coffin. I am the observer and the specimen under the glass. The architecture of this oscillation is built from jagged glass. My voice is a stone falling into an infinite well of static. There is no bottom to the spiral I am currently carving. The night is a predator waiting for the first sign of dawn. I run long escape. The silence is a predator.